Welcome to U.S. News Source Channel. Intensity of the operations in Donbass has increased. More than 60 Russian soldiers were neutralized by only 4 HIMARS missile attacks on the Donetsk front. With the shooting of the Russian headquarters, the tension on the Russian side reached the line phase. Precise moves of the Ukrainian troops carry the losses of the Russian soldiers to an irreparable level. First large-scale offensive of the year on the key line in Luhansk was launched by the Ukrainian armed forces. On the Svatov-Kreminna line, operations were carried out against Russian military points with HIMARS missile systems. Ukrainian Air Force hit more than 10 critical Russian military points. Ukrainian defense forces have now started to achieve 100% success. Russian aircraft and missiles are destroyed before they reach Ukrainian territory. Despite this, the airstrike efforts of the Russian troops continue. Training period of the regional joint forces of Russia and Belarus has been extended. Multidirectional and simultaneous progress of the Ukrainian armed forces in the operations that have increased in recent days has begun to determine the course of the war. Conflicts between the two armies are increasing day by day. As the mutual attacks on many fronts increased, the differences between the two armies began to emerge more and more. Especially on the Eastern Front, the Ukrainian army is pushing the Russian army with its simultaneous operations and causing serious losses. As a result of the operations that have increased significantly in recent weeks, the Ukrainian forces maintain their superiority. In fact, the Russian army had suffered heavy losses as a result of the record-breaking attacks carried out by the Ukrainian forces on the Donetsk front, one after the other. Moreover, even on the first day of the year, the first major attacks were carried out on this front. 25 attacks were carried out with Vampire multiple rocket launch systems against Russian military points on the front. As a result of the strong attacks carried out at night, the Russian military points were seriously damaged and the sounds of explosions echoed from the region. Immediately afterwards, the attack by the Ukrainian armed forces on the Makiivka region in Donetsk Oblast caused great damage to the Russian troops. It was announced that 63 Russian soldiers were neutralized after the attack carried out by the Ukrainian troops using HIMARS MLRS systems. It was announced that 2 rockets of the attack on the HIMARS multiple rocket launch system, 6 of which were launched by Ukraine, were shot down by the Russian air defense. However, the remaining 4 HIMARS missiles caused critical damage to the Russian forces. Important Russian headquarters in the region was hit. It was stated that the vast majority of the soldiers deployed in the area were neutralized. According to Russia's claims, mobilized soldiers were located at this point. However, this is most likely not true. Because the vast majority of mobilized soldiers are fighting on the fronts. Few remaining experienced Russian soldiers and commanders are stationed in such headquarters. If these soldiers are experienced Russian soldiers and commanders, big military problems will break out on the Russian side. Russia, which has already lost many experienced soldiers due to many strategic mistakes, will have to continue the war with untrained soldiers if it loses more. This will make it almost impossible for him to achieve success on the fronts where the violence of the war increases. In order to achieve this, strategic moves are being increased and continued by the Ukrainian army. Ukrainian army, which has made progress in the strategic direction on the fronts, continues its critical operations on the Luhansk front. Russian soldiers are no longer wondering where to go. In the past days, many Russian soldiers had fled on this front and many of them were neutralized. This time, with the first large-scale attacks of the year on the Svatov-Kreminna line, which is one of the most critical lines in this region, the operations that had already started have been increased. If the Ukrainian army gains full control over this line, great advantages will be gained. For this reason, it was reported that the Ukrainian armed forces again carried out HIMARS missile attacks on this line and tried to break the defense of the Russian troops stationed in the region. In this way, it is aimed to provide full control over the line. It was announced that the Ukrainian army carried out 5 attacks with HIMARS missile systems on this line. Russian military points hit as a result of the attack were seriously damaged. Due to the importance of the region, it is thought that mutual attacks will increase over time. Moreover, many units of the Ukrainian army continue to increase their successful moves. Ukrainian Air Force attacked 13 regions where Russian forces are concentrated with its planes. These areas were seriously damaged. Ukrainian rocket and artillery units, which have made hundreds of accurate moves since the beginning of the war, hit 5 points of Russian forces and equipment in just one day. Flames rose from the hit points and many military equipment was destroyed. However, it was reported that the Ukrainian defense forces repelled the attacks of the Russian forces around 11 regions in the Donetsk and Luhansk oblasts. Mutual attacks on these two critical fronts will increase even more, because the side that dominates these regions will be able to manage the Eastern Front. Moreover, it is known that a large part of the logistics flow of Russian soldiers is carried out from these fronts. If Russia completely loses its dominance in these regions, Russian soldiers on the fronts will not be able to reach sufficient equipment and ammunition due to the cessation of military shipments. This will cause serious reductions in attack and defense power. Although Russia suffers serious losses due to its strategic mistakes on the fronts and the accurate moves of the Ukrainian army, it continues its offensive efforts. According to the statements, Russian forces carried out a massive missile attack against Ukraine on the night of January 1 to 2, 2023 with Iranian-made Shahid-131 and Shahid-136 kamikaze unmanned aerial vehicles. However, the Ukrainian Defense Forces destroyed all 39 kamikaze unmanned aerial vehicles, 2 Orlan 10 reconnaissance drones and 1 Kh-59 air-guided missile launched by Russian forces to attack Ukrainian territory. Ukraine's anti-aircraft missile units, warplanes and mobile fire groups foiled the attack. Ukrainian Air Force also emphasized that the equipment and weapons supplied to Ukraine by Western countries are used more actively for the defense of Ukraine. Thanks to the military equipment and ammunition coming from the countries, the Ukrainian army is getting stronger day by day. Moreover, with the military capabilities of the Ukrainian troops, the rate of preventing attacks on Ukrainian soil is increasing day by day. Ukrainian forces, which again achieved 100% success, are now proving their success to the whole world. This situation also encourages countries to provide support. For this, blocked attacks are as important as the attacks carried out. At the same time, as these attacks are prevented, many infrastructure and military points are also freed from damage. While the Ukrainian army has support from many countries, Russia has a limited amount of support. As it is known, one of the rare countries that has supporters is Belarus. Belarus, which has been a supporter of Russia since the beginning of the war, continues its union with the Russian Federation. It has been announced that the training of the regional joint forces of Russia and Belarus has been extended until at least January 8. To remind you, the two countries had held talks on forming a force together in military equipment in the past months. Russia has been on the agenda for a while as it carries weapons to Belarusian territory. Although Belarus does not admit that it is a direct party to the attack on Ukrainian territory, it allows Russia's troops to use Belarusian territory to launch an attack on Ukraine. Leaders of Belarus and Russia maintained their communications and improved their relations throughout the war. It was reported that the total duration of the joint combat exercises of Belarus and Russia reached 36 weeks. However, the military moves between the two countries increased the tension of many countries. In fact, many NATO countries and Ukraine have even started to deploy their military resources to the border between Belarus and Russia for possible moves. But if the scope of this war expands, the situation will become much more difficult for Russia. Because, as it is known, Ukraine receives support from many powerful countries thanks to NATO support. Russia, on the other hand, is not even able to receive military aid from some of the countries it receives support from, as well as receiving support from a limited number of countries. These situations are of great importance in the course of the war. For this, every step to be taken and every decision to be made must now be made in a much more strategic direction. We'll see what happens in the next few days. We have reached the end of another video. You can support us by liking the video. You can easily follow new videos by subscribing. I wish you all a war-free day. See you.